We are very fortunate now to welcome on to XEP the CEO and co-founder of New Blood Interactive, Dave Oshry. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm excited to talk to you. I have been wanting to have this interview for a while, but you're down there in New Zealand.
Yes, very far away. I'm on the southern tip of the South Island of New Zealand. The closest thing to me is Antarctica. So yeah, I'm pretty far away.
That is wild in and of itself, but I'm stoked to talk about New Blood Interactive, largely because you guys have published some really cool indie games that have put you guys on the map in a number of different ways, and you've gained a reputation in the retro horror boomer shooter-esque space, but your origins go further back into VR and shmups and everything else. Tell me just a little bit about New Blood Interactive.
Well, coming off of the first game I worked on, the first game I actually worked on was Duke Nukem 1 and 2 re-releases, not the originals. I'm not that fucking old. Sorry, you said PG-13. Shit. Fuck.
There's your first.
There goes my 2. Was the Duke Nukem re-releases for iOS and stuff, and then we did Rise of the Triad 2013, which is a reboot of Rise of the Triad, not the remaster that we did with Night Dive a few years ago. It was back in 2013. And coming off of that, working with a Danish studio, me and my buddies were like, let's make our own game studio. Like, let's do our own thing. Let's we want to make we don't want to work with anybody else. We want to do something. We want to make our own stuff, right? So we started our studio. We had my buddy had a podcast at the time called HBG, Hot Blooded Gaming. It was a website. It was like a news website, podcast. It was like, it was a kind of popular thing.
And one you wrote for at that, correct?
No, so I wrote for a bunch of other websites. I wrote for Rip 10. That was the one that I managed for a while, and then I moved into like freelancing for bigger websites like BG 24/7 and stuff like that, and Joystick, if you remember Joystick. And then after I got into games marketing and stuff, me and my buddies wanted to start a studio. So it was originally called Hot Blooded Games. Coming off of Hot Blooded Gaming, my buddy Craig's podcast. For those who know old school streaming, the Craigasm face, that guy, that was the other founder of New Blood. So we were Hot Blooded Games for a while, and then me and my buddy Aaron, the other co-founder, we were on Skype one day, which was the style at the time, talking about, man, we've got all these new people coming in that we're trying to bring in. We couldn't really pay anybody at the time, but we were bringing in more friends to try and work on games and get games started. And he was like, yeah, we got all this New Blood. And I was like, that's it. He's like, what? Mm-hmm. What's it? I'm like, that's the new name for the studio, man. New Blood. He was like, yo. And then our buddy Sean came up with a logo, and the rest is history. So yeah, we did start trying to make VR games, which was the style at the time. So this is like 2014. So this is like peak original Oculus DK1, like the little boxy one, the first iteration that was like
Carmack's version, right?
Yeah, I played with Carmack's original duct tape goggled one at QuakeCon that year, the Doom 3 BFG. Like I've seen that original duct tape one that him and like Palmer Luckey did. So that era when VR was like, oh, this is a crazy cool new thing. Let's get in on this, right? And we were working on a VR Punch-Out style game that never materialized. Craig ended up leaving, Aaron ended up leaving. So then it ended up being like just me and some people trying to get stuff done, one thing led to another. We were trying to get a 2D game made. And that turned into a shmup called Super Galaxy Squadron. And that was our first like published game. And then we're like, I guess we're a publisher now. And then we did a few more things, and then the people that came just kind of never left. And then we're like, I guess we're a game studio now. And then, DUSK, then a Medieval, then Faith, the Unholy Trinity, then Ultrakill, then Gloomwood, then Fallen Aces. And the rest is history, man. And it's been 12 years now, and we've put out, 10, 8, 9, 10, 13 games, not a lot. Mm-hmm. We're always working on something. We're always either updating something in early access or porting something to another platform. Like we finally just got a bunch of our stuff out on Xbox, because Xbox is doing so well right now. And here I am on your podcast.
It's all good. I will tell you, I've been playing New Blood games over on my Steam Deck quite a bit because they fit and they suit that platform
Yes,
so well, so comfortably.
we love our handhelds.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. I did pick up a few things over on Xbox when you guys put out Dusk there and a few others, largely because you guys have and we're gonna go back to Dusk in terms of like gameplay and a medieval and a few other things, but you guys have a history of donating, in some cases, all of your revenue to charity,
Yeah,
to the child's play.
yeah, we be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about why a publisher would do that and give away all their money to charity.
I mean, we're not really, because we're not really a publisher. Like, because if we were a publisher, we'd have like, I don't know, shareholders or people to give a shit. It's just me, right? New Blood
Mhm.
is it's me, and well, now we got a lot of people working here now, but like in terms of like the company, it's always just it's me. It's Dave Incorporated, me and my buddy Aaron, who came back a few years ago. Co-founder Aaron's still here, so. But in terms of like the business stuff, it's me. So I do whatever I want. So if I want to donate all our money, a bunch of money to charity, I just do that. I don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to go to a board to approve. I just, it's nice to do nice things. Like we make enough money that, you can donate stuff. But yeah, like even back then, like you were talking about, I think when we did Super Galaxy Squadron, Nick had promised to make a donation to Child's Play. And we were like, whatever, let's just give all the revenue to Child's Play. It wasn't a lot because the game never made a lot of money or any money, actually. I don't think Super Galaxy Squadron ever made us like any money. It's made Nick some money every couple of years. I still send them royalties. It's a few $1,000s. It's whatever. And we were like, yeah, I mean, why not? Let's just give everything. Let's give it all a Child's Play. And it ended up being, I think, like $10,000, which was a lot of money. We probably could have helped the studio at the time, but whatever. Maybe that was what gave us such good karma for the next 10 years. Maybe that initial donation saying like, whatever, we hate money, which wasn't our slogan at the time. Maybe that was what set us on this path to, doing awesome stuff and, hating money and, I don't know, trying to be good people in a world of, in an industry that's all about layoffs and, other bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it may have given you some karma points for sure, but I think Dusk is what put New Blood in its current form kind of on the map. That's the
For sure.
David Zemansky, not quite successor to Doom in many ways. I know that I've had
the great grandchild of Doom.
There you go. That's the right way to put it. And John Romero himself played it, and I believe you guys have spoken just quite a bit about Dusk.
Yeah, I consider John and Brenda, the Romeros, I consider them friends now, which is crazy. Having growing up played their games, playing Doom and Wizardry and stuff, being able to I can text the Romeros, it's wild. Yeah, so Dusk, really David Szymanski, the guy who made Iron Lung, Markiplier's best friend. Before that, he made Dusk, and he had. I'll tell the story again because it's funny. I've told the story so many times, but I forget it every time. We were on Twitter, as people were doing in 2016, back when Twitter was fun and cool. And I got a DM from a guy named David Szymanski. And he was following 3 people on Twitter: me, John Romero, and Tom Hall of old Apogee Rise of the Triad fame. Everybody knows Tom Hall. And he sent me a build of his game. He's like, hey, do you want to check out my game? I guess he was a fan of the Rise of the Triad reboot. There must have been dozens of fans of the Rise of the Triad reboot. He's like, you want to check out my game? And it was a build, and we've since uploaded that build, and you could play the same build that I played, and it was Dusk. It was just like a one-room build with you could jump around, shoot things, turn the sinks on and off, destroy stuff, throw boxes around, all the physics and everything was there. The movement and shooting was all there. I was like, this is amazing. This is awesome. I want to work on this with you. And he didn't believe me. I was like, you DM'd me, bro. What do you mean you don't believe me that I want to work on you? Too good to be true? And he thought it was. He wanted to make sure I wasn't some sort of Eastern European scammer or whatever. I'm like, you DM'd me. So I flew him and his wife out to QuakeCon in Texas for the next QuakeCon that year. And we sat down and we talked, and the rest is history. Soon after that, we brought Andrew Holschult in, our buddy, who had worked with us on Rise of the Triad, and we're like, we need some good butt rock for this, and that's kind of how the Dusk dudes were born. And the rest was quite literally history at this point. It's a part of FPS history.
It certainly is. I think it's one of those neat things because it it often looks like a game that could be made in like the PlayStation 1 era. You know, people attribute it to that, but it's got such modern uh, aesthetic, not aesthetics, pardon me, modern gameplay, like intuition there. The atmosphere is wonderful, but what's really neat is it is the grandchild of Doom in so many ways. And the people that follow kind of that realm, you mentioned Apogee, you mentioned Doom, you mentioned Romero's, Dusk was kind of their new version of that, and New Blood seemed to manage to get this out into a number of different storefronts. I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling the story again about uh, the Steam launch that almost didn't, as it were.
Yeah, well, it's like I think we like to say stuff like we infuse new blood into old genres because it's like Dusk is like kind of how you remember Quake and Doom in your mind's eye, and then you go back and play them, and you're like, oh, it didn't actually have this kind of air control and sliding and flipping and stuff like that. It's kind of how like you remember those games in your mind as a kid with rose-tinted glasses, but you sit down and you play it, and it's got modern controls, modern feel, modern air control. You know, it's you know, almost like, you know, well, now they got Night Dive remasters of those old games, so they kind of feel the same, but still. Yeah, so when we were getting ready, so Dusk originally launched in early access on Steam, which people forget because, you know, we're big on our early access because we, you know, want to make sure people like our games as we're developing them, which is good. I mean, early access is a pain in the ass. Everybody's complaining all the time and saying they want this, that, this, and that, but when you do all those things, they come out with a good game. Yeah, David, we were in early access in 2017 through 2018. We were supposed to come out at the end of 2017. It took like a whole other year. We didn't come out till December 2018, December 10th, same day as Doom, Doom's anniversary. We picked that for Dusk, and we got approval from both Romero and Bethesda to do that. And we got a little shout out from Bethesda when it happened, which was cool. It's hard to get shout outs from, big companies on social media. They have social media teams, and they have to go through like approvals to do stuff like that, right? They're not like us. They can't just go, yeah, sure, whatever, beep, boop, boop, boop. So that was cool. And yeah, the game, we hadn't heard from our Steam rep in like weeks, because, this was 2018. The Steam biz dev team has always been small, right? It's like a handful of people. It's maybe a dozen people or less, and that manage 20,000 games, and like, thousands of developers. But we were assigned a guy, and we talked to him pretty frequently, and Dusk was ready to come out. And we're like, all right, the game's coming. Back then they still had to launch your game. Now on Steam, you can do it yourself. You type in Steamworks, are you sure, ready to launch, boom. It goes through like an approval process, you submit, and then it gets a green light, and then you could do it yourself, right? Back then in 2018, Valve still had to push the button for you. You couldn't do it yourself. And we didn't hear, I was like, hey man, just making sure, Dusk's coming out, 10 a.m. on the 10th of December, like it's coming out, right? Like, this is our whole life is depending on it, no big deal. And we didn't hear from him until like 2 hours after the game was supposed to launch. He was like, all right, we're good to go. And I was like, bro, where have you been?
Right. Yeah. And because he'd not spoken to you guys for several days or weeks prior to that, right?
It was very annoying. That guy doesn't work at Valve anymore. He actually just announced that he has a new job at a new publisher. I don't know how he keeps getting hired places. It's terrible. Nice guy though. Probably just very busy, and we were not as important as all the other games that he had to work on. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. To me, it was make or break for us, right? If this game did well, it was everything. If it didn't, we were all going to go back to, David was working at Dollar General. I was selling used cars. Andrew hadn't, blown up and done music for Doom and other games yet. We were still trying to make our way. So this was it. This was make or break. So then Dusk did finally come out hours after it was supposed to. And it didn't sell a lot of copies that first day. It sold like 200 copies. And we were like, cool, I guess that's it. We're done.
Are you panicking?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was kind of just like, well, we tried. It had done pretty good in early access. It had done like, I think 20,000 copies in early access, like over a year, which today would be like, that's not a lot. But back then that was pretty good. It was enough to keep us going. Back then, New Blood wasn't like, we were maybe a handful of people. Now we're a full studio of like 50 people, right? Back then we were like 6 people. It had done okay. but it wasn't like enough to keep, make us. We were all. It wasn't anybody's full time job. I didn't have New Blood wasn't my full time job till 2022. So yeah, and we were like, whatever. We tried our best, but the reviews were good, so we were happy about that. But then the next day, I guess word of mouth started, and then the reviews started coming in. There was 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, 9 out of 10, reviews, best shooter in years, the 90s are back, blah, blah, blah. Word of mouth, YouTubers started playing it, people started streaming it, and then the sales just kept rolling on and rolling on, and it was on sale. And then we had it on sale, and that sale continued through the Steam Winter Sale. So the game was on sale for like a solid 40 days. And every day for like those 40 days, it would sell like 500 copies, 600 copies, 1,000 copies, 1,200 copies. And it did that for like 30 days straight. So by the time we turned around after the launch period, the game had sold like 80,000 copies. And we were like, oh, now we're in business, and it kind of, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, that's your phrase today, man, which I get because you guys have built history. But I am curious what is success for a game like that? Because, one of the sad parts about social media now is you go on, people are getting laid off nonstop, AAA development, it's crashing. This indie game does this, game Crimson Desert gets this review score, that's cool. What does success mean?
I have not seen a game get railed for controls this hard, I think, ever. I went to go out because I was hype on Crimson Desert. I was like, oh, cool, it's like a MMO, but they took all the MMO. It's just your single player, and like it looks like it's got wrestling moves. It looks like it's got Breath of the Wild stuff going on. Like the draw, you can see out to the other side of the country. I'm like, it's like 1,000 Korean devs working on it. Like this looks insane. And then the reviews come out, and they were like mixed. I was like, oh, it must be performance. It must be I don't know, maybe Steam Deck, Linux, the usual stuff people complain about. And I start going through the reviews. It's like the controls. I'm like, how bad are the controls? Apparently they're so bad that across the board. I'm like, how hard? That's not what? Anyway,
yeah.
I just think it's really funny. Like, how do you mess that up? Like, out of all the things.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm sure they'll fix it. It always looked like, once I saw reviews, I was like, all right, wait for some patches, wait for a sale,
right?
Because it was like $70. I'm like, I can wait. Anyway, Crimson. This is not a podcast about Crimson Desert. Although I do want to play it at some point because it does look cool. It's got wrestling. You can RKO people. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. But what was the question before Crimson Desert? Oh, what does success look like? So our budget. I mean, success for us. I mean, you always see like these AAA games, like Square Enix is famous for going like, sorry, the game only sold 6 million copies and that did not meet our expectations, so we're shutting the studio down. Like, that happens all across the board. With our games, if a game sells 50 to 100,000 copies, that's like a big hit. If we do, most of our games have at least sold 500,000, and we've had a few platinum million plus sellers at this point, and those are like, we can make games for 10 years now with the money those have made. So for us, it's just like our we're most of our budgets were nowadays like our games cost a lot of money. I pay everybody's salaries and stuff like that. But in the early days with like Dusk and Medieval, we were just bootstrapped. We were just making the games on nights and weekends and stuff. So like, outside of like what little investment we did in paying ourselves to live, it was kind of pure profit, but like I said, so like 20,000 copies isn't enough to keep a studio going. But like once Dusk was selling like more than 100,000 copies, that was, we had real money to do real things. Then a Medieval, and then Faith, Fallen Aces, Gloomwood. By the time we got to 2022, I mean, the pandemic, honestly, I say this a lot, is really kind of where we really like kind of shifted into high gear, because we've never had an office. We've never worked together. We've always been fully remote. We work on Discord. That's like, it used to be Slack and Skype. But Discord and screen sharing changed everything for us. It used to be when I would play builds to review with David, I would play builds and then I would take screenshots of every single place I wanted to like, change something or do something with enemy encounters or my thoughts. And then it became, we could just screen share. So, Discord and the pandemic really changed everything for us, because while the world was trying to figure out how to work remotely, like all these game studios, like they were like, oh, people have to work from home, we don't know what to do, and it took them years to figure that out. We'd been doing that already for years, so we started pumping stuff out during the pandemic, updates, game releases, boom, 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 and that's really kind of when we shifted stuff into high gear. And what does success look like for all those games? It's relative. Like I've never understood how you can like budget for a game that has to sell like 3 million copies to break even. I saw that the other day with Lords of the Fallen, right? The studio had announced it has officially sold 2.5 million copies. I was like, whoa. And they're like, it has broken even. I'm like, what? Yeah. You had to sell 2.5 million copies of a $70 game to break even? Where'd the money go?
Yeah.
What did you spend? Well, I got on my calculator. We were talking about it internally, and we were just like, 2.5 million, 70. What the fuck did you spend all that money? And they're Eastern European devs or whatever. They don't pay a lot of money over there. It's not like, a Western studio or a Japanese. The salaries are lower. And it's like, damn, I couldn't imagine. Like, imagine if a New Blood game cost like, and we were like, okay, Gloom. I mean, we dumped tons of into Gloomwood, but like, imagine if it was like, all right, Gloomwood has to sell 1 million copies or it's not profitable. Like that would not. Wow, I wouldn't make that game. I wouldn't take that bet, right? And especially because all the AAA and AA, they're playing with other people's money. So it's like, you get this investment money, and then you tell your investors, okay, thank you for this $5 million. We now need to go make a game. And like the game has to sell this many copies, and then hopefully we'll break even. Then you start getting your money back, and then maybe after you guys get paid back, then we can get paid. And it's an insane system, of investment that just circles around in video games. And it's like the budgets are so high, but it sucks because like we need to pay people more, but games can't cost anymore because consumers don't have any money and they're not willing to pay anymore. So it's like it's really no wonder that there's across the board studios are shutting down, there's layoffs, because it's like technically video games should probably cost $150 each, but ain't nobody gonna pay $150 for a video game, so it's like we have to either sell tons of copies, or they have to do battle passes, microtransactions, all this stuff, they live service in order to make keep the money flowing. That's not a problem with our games. That's not an issue with our games. If our budgets are low and our expectations are high. So when we have a game that sells, and at this point, Ultrakill has sold millions and millions of copies, right? And that kind of just pays for everything else. So we just now we get to do whatever the fuck we want. Sorry, there's my second bomb. Where it's like if I do a spinoff like Dungeons of Dusk, right? We're doing a dungeon crawler, an old school dungeon crawler based on Dusk. I don't care if that sells 10,000 copies. It doesn't matter. It's fun. It doesn't need. It's now we're at the point where things don't. I mean, it will do well. Obviously, it'll probably sell 100,000 copies maybe. But that's like a runaway success for an old school dungeon crawler. Nothing we make needs to sell millions of copies to break even or to make us money or to be successful. And people are often really surprised because we're so popular. When I tell them that our games haven't sold millions of copies, they're like, what? Everybody knows Faith. Everybody knows Dusk. I thought Dusk has sold like 10 million copies. I'm like, on what planet has Dusk sold 10 million copies? But they don't, but everybody, everybody knows it. It's part of consciousness. It's part of FPS history. I'm like, Dusk has sold like 1 million copies. Not 10 million copies, but it's good to be thought of that way. But success it's relative. It's at the AAA and the AA level. AA is actually doing pretty well because stuff's manageable, but at the AAA level, it's insane. Or at the quadruple A level, what they call now, the Spider-Mans and the Wolverines and the Last of Us is the world, quintuple A or whatever they call big studio games now. Games that like are expected to sell 10, 15 million copies. Like that's not sustainable. No. That's insane. And then the problem is they'll only pay people long enough because we don't have unions. They'll only pay people long enough to get the game out the door. And then they'll look at the books and they'll be like, all right, well, who can we lay off now? Game's out. And then I know people that have been laid off from AAA studios after a game comes out and then they get hired back in 3 months.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's because it's just accounting. It's not the people don't, the investors and the publishers don't treat it as like an artistic, endeavor. It's just books. It's just bookkeeping. It's just, all right, games out, made this much money. These people cost this much money. We can get rid of this many people. And then when we get money or budget for the next thing, we can hire on this many people. It's just, it's math to them. It's not art.
Which I think is I'm sorry, go ahead.
But to us, it's art.
Yes. Oh, very much so. Very much so. And I've always struggled with what art is worthy of selling. And if you had told me Ultrakill would be as much fun as it is based on a trailer, I wouldn't have believed you. Same with Dusk. I'd have been like, that's really neat. And then I get my hands on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it.
We try to be, the word I like to say a lot about our games is subversive. Our stuff very much subverts your expectations of what you think it's going to be. You look at the trailers, you're like, oh, fast, shooty, boom, boom. And then you're like, there's story here. There's lore here. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. There's more mechanics than I thought there would be. Like, this game's kind of deep. What's going on here? Let me go on Reddit and see what this shit's actually about. So subversion is a big part of what we do at New Blood.
Which I think is telling and impressive. I also wonder what goes into you guys deciding what platforms to release on. You alluded earlier, we finally on Xbox.
Yeah.
I don't even know what Xbox is anymore, if I'm being honest with you.
This interview is an Xbox.
Yeah, the platforms that are available to you, you guys have been making a lot of use of early access via Steam. But what about like Itch, Green Man, Switch, Plays it? What are the differences for you guys?
It's basically like we've missed every gold rush, because we always joke about how we hate money, and part of hating money is not chasing trends or doing stuff, or else we'd be making roguelike, Metroidvania, deck builder, friend slot games, right? We'd be like, oh, those make money, let's make those. We don't work in genres that make money. But another part of that is just the fact that we've always like jokingly missed every gold rush. Like when the Switch came out, if you got an indie game on Switch, you made a ton of money. Switch, or when Xbox and PlayStation first started letting indies on, it's like, oh, we could have been on there. It was like, when VR first came out, oh, we missed that too. So it's just like, whatever. What are we doing? Why are we trying to get on these platforms? Just to make some money. We do what players ask for. So like, obviously, we're big, PC gamers. So like, Steam has always been the main platform, and Steam is the biggest store in the world. It's like orders of magnitude above anything else. People are still surprised that like PC is like the biggest platform. Steam is like, it's compared to the console stores and everything else, it's just massive. Like 1 week of sales on Steam is almost equal to months and years on consoles for us. But we've never done a simultaneous release yet, so we'll have to see. Come back to me after we launch Ultrakill and it launches on everything at once, and I'll give you some real math. Even though PC is still going to be number one, it'll actually be interesting to see, because most of our console ports and stuff have been years after. So it's hard to fully judge. But we decide based on what people ask for. People were asking for Switch really hardcore, around 2018, 2019, 2020, because that was still peak Switch days. So we figured out how to do Switch. We got Dusk on there, Faith's on there, and then people were asking for Xbox for a long time, and we were like, we'll get to it. I mean, we're busy, right? We do everything ourselves, so it's like we'll get to it. But we were just kind of waiting for like a cool, fun opportunity. The Xbox stuff was always a pain in the ass. I think I've said this before in other interviews. Like the ID at Xbox people are super nice, but like the back end stuff is all like Microsoft stuff. It's not like the Steam back end is like really easy to use and stuff like that. But once you get into like the Microsoft stuff, it's like, man, it's like very corporate back end. It's like software development. It's not game development. It looks like app. It's much different than what we're used to.
Can you elaborate on that? Just because I'm confused if it's like, is it the people in boardrooms approval, or is it like the development you have to make different types of versions?
No, it's not the people. Everybody we've ever interacted with is like super helpful, but it's just like there's so many things that either don't work or have to go back and forth or kick back, and it's all like the web, and the website is slow as balls. And it's just like you get to a point where it's like, what are we doing? What is taking so like, and you have to email someone and they email you back, and you have to try this and that doesn't work. Then you have to email them again. And it's so much back and forth. on the console side, whereas we're used to PC where we can literally do everything ourselves and launch it and patch stuff in a day. You don't have to wait for patches. We put out our own patches. So nothing has to get certified or approved. We do it ourselves. If it's broken, we fix it.
Does that make you not want to make console ports or Xbox specific ports?
It definitely is. It makes it harder. It's more of a pain. Like we're busy. Like we got stuff to do. And it's like a lot of time. It was a few times we had gotten started on the Xbox stuff, and we had stopped because we had gotten stuck somewhere, and we just gave up and got busy, and we put it aside because it wasn't a priority. It could have happened sooner, but it's just we weren't going to bother. So when a good opportunity finally came up, we've been working with Asus for a long time. They send us stuff. We love their stuff. They announced the ROG Ally, Xbox ROG Ally. We had the ROG Ally and the Ally X, and they announced the Xbox one. And I was like, there it is. There's our opportunity because our games play really good on handheld. They're already Steam Deck verified. We've got a good opportunity with Asus. We can probably do some marketing around it. Let's get our games on Xbox for when that thing launches. So we decided, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to knuckle down. We're going to get Blood West, Dusk, Faith, Medieval. That's going to be our Xbox thing. And immediately after we announced that, they announced all the layoffs and that the Xbox is down 30% year over year. And that, they announced the Game Pass price hike the very next day. And I was like, and everybody was like, cool, we're getting off of Xbox. And I was like, we just announced we're coming to Xbox. It's still obviously very cool to see your games on console. Like when I boot up the Xbox, home screen and you go back and forth and you're like, wow, there's our game. We're a real game on a console, There's still that, bit of, that prestige of being on a console. But yeah, that was our moment. And now we can say we're definitely, and we did really cool versions of them. We made sure that I try to make sure that every platform we do, because people ask for it, feels special. So with Dusk, every port we've done had a level from an iconic level. So the Switch version had a knockoff version of Peach's Castle for an endless map. The PlayStation version had a knockoff version of Silent Hill for the endless map. The Xbox version, we did a map called Dusk Gulch, which was obviously a knockoff of Blood Gulch from Halo for the endless map. And we did a fun little trailer around that. So I try to make sure that, that they get, each platform gets, stuff that makes them feel like it was worth the wait. So yeah. So back to your original question, why do we decide to do what platforms we do? People ask and we find the time, and I try to, like I said, it's all me prioritizing what we have to do. Obviously console ports cannot take priority over finishing Ultrakill or Gloomwood or Fallen Aces. But in between these big updates for our early access games, it's all right, now do we have some time to put some programmers on the console ports and maybe get some of those out and try to find a good time to drop those where it makes sense from a marketing perspective, yada, yada, yada. It's all just, my job as a studio manager is just constantly juggling balls and playing chess with our developers, seeing who I can put on what and where I can prioritize things. So Xbox was right time, right place late last year.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, listen, is it the best time to be on Xbox? Who knows? But listen, I would have done it anyway. I have a Series X in my living room. I have a Series S in my bedroom. I use my my Ally Xbox more than anything, my handheld. So I'm really glad that we did that. I haven't even looked at the sales since we launched on Xbox. I don't know how they're doing. It's fine, I guess. It's just it's more of for you got to understand, Steam is so much higher than all of our other revenue that I don't even really look at. I don't really look at our revenue at all anyway. I look at our bank account and I see a number go up. I'm like, oh my God. I'm not good at running a business. I am not. I just know that we're doing fine, so that we keep making games. I'm not a CEO that sits in a boardroom. I'm a dude in my underwear in my house.
I love this idea, Dave. You're like, I'm terrible at this. You guys celebrated your 12th anniversary.
Yeah. So
so it can't be that bad.
But like, yeah, we're doing fine. Like we're definitely doing good. Like, but success is weird because some people, all they care about is like growth, growth, growth. And like they would want to like, okay, we've got a hit game. Let's get a big office and hire a bunch of people and grow and then make a really big AA games. Like we're literally just going to keep doing what we've been doing until we're not doing it anymore. Like we're not changing anything. Like I look at the money we've got in the bank or whatever. I'm not like, oh, we can use that to like invest in something and do a big project that we can all. That money just sits there for if we need it for stuff. You know, that just is like we're good. Like why change? We're again, but also like we don't have any publishers, we don't have any investors, we don't like have any shareholders. Like it's just me who decides what we do. And I decide that we're just going to keep doing what we're doing because we're happy, we're having fun, we're profitable. People like us, people like our games. What's bad? We're chilling.
So I really want to ask you about this early access model, but you did mention something that just off the cuff now I'm thinking, for consoles to be, I don't know, working with Xbox was difficult for you guys. And
yeah, I mean, it's not difficult, just kind of like it took a while. You know,
sure.
And it's the same with others too. Like, you know, Nintendo's back. I've gotten really good at Nintendo's content management system. And again, this is just, you know, me and my programmers like looking at documentation, figuring out websites, seeing what we have to do. We're going to submit, reading lots of paperwork and being like, okay, you know, and figuring this stuff out. You know, so I wouldn't say Xbox was difficult. It was just, it took a while. And there are a lot of places you can get stuck, and you've seen this. Other indies have said the same thing. The onboarding process and the release process, it's not easy. And I have heard from people at ID at Xbox and people to talk to them that they are trying to open it up and make it easier to launch on Xbox. But you have to understand, Microsoft is Microsoft. Right. You know, it is a $1 trillion giant, one of the biggest corporations in the world. You know, they can't just, you know, and they're not like Steam, where they just like a private company, you know, with a bunch of people on the biz dev team who could just, you know, develop software and make it super easy to use yourself. And also Valve has a, you know, 15-year head start on everybody at building a really good game platform, where Microsoft let their game store and their game platform just kind of stagnate for a jillion years. They've only taken an interest in Windows gaming again in the last year.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Is like, you know, they talk about Project Helix. It's emerged. I don't know if it's console, PC, whatever it is going to be. Right? Does that excite you guys at all? Because Steam is so good.
It's so funny, like how too little, too late it is. Like Windows is installed on every computer in the world, and they literally let Valve come and have the most popular store in the world on their software. They like, you have Windows, like people start Windows. And instead of having a game store and a game platform on there that people could use, you literally let a private company come in and build the greatest gaming platform of all time in your kitchen, that you cook it, and you're just standing there like, the fuck going on over here? You know, it's just really wild, because there was a time, if you remember back in like the 2000s, where Windows gaming was a thing. There was like that original, you know, flight simulator era, like that before games for Windows Live, which was an atrocity. There was, you know, the Windows gaming era of, you know, pre-Steam, and there was an opportunity that they never took, and they never evolved, and they went all in on Xbox, essentially. You know, they gave up on PC gaming and they went all in on Xbox. And then by the time PC gaming came back, thanks to Steam and thanks to Valve, Microsoft and Windows had no dog in the fight. Nobody buys games on the Windows store. You open the Windows store. I'll open it right now. It's like apps and stuff. It's like Solitaire and Cookie and Angry Birds and stuff like that. Nobody buys games on it. So only now with the new software and the Xbox app, right? That's, you know, I think if you want to get an idea of what they're trying to do, obviously you look at like the Xbox app and what's on like the Ally, right? It's how it switches between stuff. They're trying to make the Xbox store a better game store, a better platform. You can switch between your apps like Steam and Xbox and stuff like that. They're trying to make PC Game Pass more of a thing, selling games on PC, and Xbox Play Anywhere. which I think is and talk about something that's a pain for developers, but whatever. That I think is one of the best features that they should have been talking about. That and what's the quick resume, which is great on Xbox. Like, buy it, own it, play it anywhere. Like, you've got all these devices, and I didn't hate on the this is an Xbox campaign as much as other people. I'm just like, either I'm like, this isn't going to work, and they're going to pivot and blame somebody and fire that person. And I believe they have now done that. I believe they have pivoted, gotten rid of it, blamed Sarah Bond, and she's gone. Like, awesome. Like, I knew they wouldn't stick with it. The problem was, if they would have, in order for the this is an Xbox thing to work, and as a marketing guy, I didn't hate it. I just thought they really had to stick with it long term, but they didn't. But I get it, being that, like, if you can buy a game on any Xbox platform and play it on any Xbox platform. It means you can play it on your PC, you can play it on your handheld, you can play it on your console, and you don't have to worry about it, right? Because ease of use and convenience is what people are used to these days. Nobody wants to move files around. Nobody wants to buy a game more than once, so it makes a lot of sense. So if this Project Helix, the hybrid system, wants to be successful, they really need to market it and sell it as such. Like, listen, you can play whatever you buy that has Xbox on it, you can play it on all your things, because the Ally handheld confused so many moms out there. I see this on like Facebook. I'm to get a real idea of what people think about games from real people who aren't in the gaming space. Join a lot of different gaming Facebook groups, like normie Facebook groups, like just like join the Ally Xbox Facebook group, or the MetaQuest Facebook group, to see like what the suburban soccer moms are saying about buying. Like, I bought my kid the Xbox handheld. Why can't it play FIFA? He has FIFA on his Xbox. Why can't he play it on this thing? Because they saw the marketing that said this is an Xbox handheld, and they don't understand why their kid can't play his Xbox games. Because it confused people. So the way to fix that is to make it so you can just advertise everything as an Xbox, and no matter where you buy your games, it does work. So if a mom sees an ad that, hey, there's a handheld Xbox now, and they go out and buy it, and the kid already owns, whatever games they have, on their Series S or their Helix or whatever it is, it's going to have parity across no matter what. She's not going to complain and be like, why isn't this working? Why is my kid upset? You have to make it super easy, super simple, and super easy to market to people like that. So it is absolutely the way forward if Xbox wants to survive, to do a hybrid. But the problem comes from, now developers have to create builds for this Xbox Play Anywhere ecosystem. And what that is so it's technically the console version of the game also running on PC. If you look at DUSK, the XPA version of DUSK, so if you go to the Windows Store and you buy DUSK, it doesn't have like keyboard and mouse rebinding or a bunch of other like PC features that you would have in the Steam version and stuff, because it's the console version of DUSK. It's a build that also runs on Xbox. So that's what XPA is. Xbox Play Anywhere is a build that has parity on all the things. So it's one build of the game, which makes sense, right? But the PC version of those games will not have all the features of a dedicated PC version. So like if you go and buy the Steam version of DUSK, the options menu is a lot deeper than the Windows Store version of DUSK. But also, nobody's buying PC games on the Windows Store anyway, for now. In the future, maybe they are. But that depends on if Xbox sticks with this PC Xbox hybrid strategy, or if Xbox is even around in a few years. I don't know. But to answer your question, does it make sense, or is it the way forward? Absolutely, because PC it's so funny, because like it's always been PC. Where do you think people develop games? Like, where do we make our games on? A computer. It's always been, we have to develop a game on PC and then make it work on consoles. It's never been the other way around. So I think it makes sense. But it also, you can say it the other way, where Sony is doubling down the other direction. I think they're taking their games off of Steam and maybe making their own. I think I saw they were making their own PC launcher or whatever, which is not going to go well for them, because everybody tried that And then Valve was like, where did that bring you? Back to me. You know, it's not going to happen. Like they've got all the market share. I'd love a better, nicer, cooler store, but it's not a thing. It's impossible. You're not going to have. Valve has a 15-year head start on everybody. It's just not going to happen. But Sony's doubling down on their exclusives on consoles, on that stuff. And I still play like the big dick exclusives on my PS5. That's where not exclusives, but like the big AAA games like Crimson Desert. I'm probably going to play it on my PS5. Stuff like Ghost of Tsushima, stuff like Wolverine, those that are exclusive, like they're still using that model where it's like, you want to play this big exclusive thing, you got to play it on PS5, where Xbox is like, Starfield, it's on PS5 now. Everything's on everything, which I don't mind. Because it's weird because people kind of got siloed for a really long time on ecosystems, because not everybody can afford everything. I'm a game developer and who runs a game studio. I've got every console ever made, like just lying around because it's my job. But most people can afford one thing, right? So like if you put all your eggs, if you're a PlayStation gamer, you play what's on there. If you're an Xbox gamer, for a while it was like you play games on the Xbox and you had those exclusives, and your exclusives were stuff like Halo, Gears of War, Forza. But now you can play those anywhere. So why tie yourself to Xbox if you can tie yourself to PC or even PlayStation at this point? So it's been a really weird time watching Xbox kind of just like flounder around in the ocean, flap their wings, and see stick to something. You got to stick to the plan. you got to pick a plan and stick to it. The problem is with corporations and shareholders and shareholder value is if a quarterly return comes in or whatever it is, and they don't see number go up, they go, why is this? Why is this happening? Number no go up? Whatever you guys are doing, stop it, do something else. If they don't see immediate results, it's not good enough, And Satya or whoever will be like, whoa, number no go up. We're getting rid of Xbox. Fuck you guys. Phil's out. Sarah's out. We're starting over. We're bringing somebody from AI in to run Xbox now. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad I'm not in the AAA business. I'm glad I'm not in the console business. I'm glad I don't work at a giant corporation because it just seems shitty.
Yeah, it does. And it's confusing on the consumer side, as you alluded to. I don't know which way is up sometimes. And that's the hard part for sure.
Yeah, because it's funny because I love my Series S, right? And it's been our bedroom console forever. It was a Game Pass machine. It's like a Series S and Game Pass is it's an insane value. Mm-hmm. Even at the new Game Pass level, it plays it obviously doesn't have the power to do 4K 60 on most games, but I'm not playing games that I need to do 4K 60 on. I'm not playing Red Dead on that thing. So it was awesome. But now with I don't know if it's coming out anytime soon, but the Steam box, the new Valve Steam machine or whatever, that's going to replace my Series S for sure, because I've got 10 times as many games on Steam and now they're all verified, and that's my new bedroom TV console. Mm-hmm. People have always been like, well, why don't you just hook up your, hooking up your PC to the living room TV has never been a great experience. It's not the same as a console. It's never going to be. It's not ease of use. It's not sit on your couch, you press a button on the thing, it makes the beep and you're good. It's not the same. With the Steam Deck now the Steam machine, they tried it before. It didn't work. They tried Steam machines 5-10 years ago. It didn't work. Now it's going to work, especially with, what they've done with Steam OS and the ecosystem. So that's the scarier thing for Xbox. It's every time Xbox kind of gets a little something going, they get knocked in the face by somebody else. And I think a lot of it's just that it's been too little too late. Microsoft and Xbox had so much time to come up with a strategy or make this stuff happen or build a PC strategy. They have all the money in the world, literally. All the talent, the best programmers and designers in the world. They're freaking Microsoft. And they're just kind of, it's really, I don't know, man. It's just watching it as an outsider and an indie developer. It's whatever. We do what our players want. So as long as they ask for our stuff on Xbox, we'll put it on Xbox. But what does Xbox looks like in the next 5 to 10 years? I have no idea.
Yeah, no, nor do I. Nor do I, my friend. I don't know if I'm really excited or scared. I don't know how I feel right now. It's a confusing time.
It is weird.
One of the things that you guys have made use of at New Blood is early access.
Yes.
And you guys seem to live in early access, get that player feedback. And I mean, Duskwood, Gloomwood, Ultrakill, they come out in early access and they're there for a while. And I'm a 1.0 guy. I'm not a guy that plays early access, but I see the success and I still pick them up. And I'm curious.
Well, that's the way to do early access is you see something come out, you think it's pretty good, your price is usually lower, you buy it, you play a little bit, you go, okay, this will be good, uninstall, wait for 1.0, and then you play it again. That's how I do early access games.
Mm-hmm.
But our strongest soldiers are the people who buy early access and then play it every update and give us feedback every update. And those are the people that help us make good games.
Yeah. Well, tell me why you're willing to let a game live in early access for so long. To me, that's a fascinating story.
So
tell me
to make them perfect. Look at our user review scores and stuff like that. Like we try to make our games as perfect as possible. And that means taking as much time as we need to work, take in feedback and do the next update as we can. I kind of see our games in early access as TV shows getting new seasons. We try to do these nice, big, robust updates, and it's like you play the new season, and then you wait for the next few episodes to come out. It kind of feels like that, or like kind of like week to week. Back in the day, TV shows were on cable, and they would have a new one. You only got one new episode a week. There was none of this binge bullshit, and you got one new episode of The Sopranos every Sunday on HBO, and then you had to wait a while for a new season of The Sopranos to come out. So we're like The Sopranos. Not really. We're not. I don't think we're as good as The Sopranos. I'm the fucking Sopranos. So it's kind of like that, whereas like and it allows us to, like we say, develop with our players. Like, what do you want? What do you like? What do you don't like? Also, please help us find issues that we can't find. Because like we've got QA and stuff, but like our QA team of half a dozen people is not the same as letting 100,000 people play your game and give bug reports. And it's a great model. It's really allowed, because back in the day, you used to just work on games until you were done, and then you release them, and then a million people find issues with your game, then you have to go do patches. And before that, there weren't any patches. They're just, you got a game on a cartridge, and that was it. You didn't, who did you complain to in 1988? Mm-hmm. There were no Steam forums. That's it. You just accepted things. You didn't know if something was a bug or not. There was nobody to talk to. Who are you going to talk to? Your dad? Is this broken? I was playing games in my basement. So early access has been great, but not everywhere. Like I would not do early access on console. I know some people have done that. We only do it on Steam. That's our platform, because it's a really good platform for that feedback loop. Like we don't do early access on GOG or itch, or we don't do those previews on Xbox or PlayStation. I don't think Switch even does early access, because that's just too much to manage and too many feedback loops. Like we need to silo that feedback into something that's actionable, so we can just iterate on it and release. And we use, because Valve has built a great platform for that. And then once the game's done, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't wait for this to come to console. I've been waiting a million years. I'm like, well, it's not done yet. Early access is great if you do it the right way. Some people do early access to completely, they put out like the early access version isn't ready, they price it really high. They like a lot of, I've seen some people, not so much anymore, but like developers is like, you must pay us a premium for the opportunity to test our game early, and the early access version's like $60. Like, what the fuck are you doing? We start our early access like $10, and the price then you get the game. But like if you're willing to like jump in that early, like you should get the game. It's just like a no-brainer to me. Like the earlier if you buy something that's not finished yet, it should be cheaper than when it's finished. People tell me I'm insane, but we're still here after 12 years, so I'm doing something right.
And so that's kind of the funny thing is, and I think you've indirectly answered this, but I do want to be poignant and ask, do you have a timeline when a dev says I want to go into early access? Do you say, all right, 3 years, 4 years?
No, we never. It's just it's done when it's done. And like the only thing you could say about our games is they take a long time, and people bitch and moan and complain and stuff on the forums. But like, okay, like I can't press a magic button and make the games come out faster. I can't just hire a bunch of people and be like, that's not how it works. You know, it's not a factory. You can't just put more body. You can't just throw bodies at a problem like that. You know, it's art. You can't, like, the designers have to design. They have to onboard people. You can't just, like, we've brought in more people to work on all of our games, like a lot more. But it's not gonna, like, we can't just speed up the game by a year by throwing monies or bodies at the problem. That's not how it works, and we don't need it to work like that. And actually, to a previous point, that is what, like, AAA or AA studios would do. They would just hire up and expand and grow and be like, all right, now we could have 60 people working on this thing. But that doesn't necessarily make the game better or come out much sooner, and it creates a whole lot more other problems. But no, I'm never just like, okay, this game is gonna win, because we don't do timelines, we don't do what's the roadmaps. A lot of early access games, like, hey, here's what, because you ever see roadmaps of early access games, they miss every single deadline on the map, on the road. And then I've seen so many games where they're like, here's our early access roadmap, and then they quietly delete the roadmap a few months later because stuff goes wrong, especially with indie teams. People have deaths in the family, people get sick, people get depressed, people, shit happens. I just had a kid, like, I'm busy, like, stuff gets pushed weeks, months, years, people die, like, stuff happens. So, our games are done when they're done. Like, they used to, back in the day with 3D Realms, it was literally when it's done, and then Duke Nukem Forever never actually got done. Well, it did, technically.
Technically. Did it, Okay, so I have 2 more questions for you. One of them, very spicy.
Ooh.
Dave, you are, I would argue, brutally honest. I listened to several interviews in prep for this one, a lot of research, and you've been very sincere with me throughout.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed that. I get a lot of interviews where people ask me the same stupid questions. You actually asked me real ones. I could tell you actually did your research. Some people are like, so what's a boomer shooter?
How did you
it's
none
just
of that.
like, oh, I've heard this one before. So tell me how New Blood gets that. Anyway, continue.
Well, I'm curious, because you're so direct, but you also get the job done. Does that ever cost you opportunities? Like, you don't mince words. Has that ever cost you opportunities?
Because I said this on an interview I did not too long ago, where it's like, I am direct and I am honest, but I'm not a cunt. I'm not an asshole. I'm not saying anything. I'm not like, you suck, fuck you. Sorry, another F-bomb. When I go on a podcast or whatever and I complain that it's a pain in the ass to get our stuff, working on Xbox or PlayStation, what I end up hearing is that feedback makes it back to them, and they're like, and I've been very vocal over the years about features that Steam and stuff could have, and Valve on the back end. And I email people directly, like, at Xbox, at Valve. I'm like, hey man, have you guys thought about doing this? And stuff gets changed, stuff gets fixed. If you don't bring it up, they don't know the amount of things. It happens in game development all the time. You ever play a game and you're like, why doesn't this work like this? How did nobody think of this? And then somebody recommends it, like on the forums, and then it ends up in another patch. And the answer 90% of the time is because nobody brought it up. So a guy like me, who doesn't have to worry about investors or publishers or shareholders, who can say whatever he wants, essentially, and I can get the wheels moving a lot of the time by saying these things. Sometimes it's off the cuff or kind of indirect, and I kind of sound like an ass, but like I'm never mean. I'm honest. I'm like, hey, this could be better. This is what you guys could be doing better. And most of the time, the answer is like, we didn't think of that. Yeah, it could be better. And I've heard like rumblings, from I've made direct change. I know there's features on Steam and on the Steamworks backend that are a direct result of me complaining to Valve, or even bugs. Like, we find bugs with Steam and Xbox and stuff all the time. We're like, hey, do you guys know about this? And they're like, oh, we're actually fixing. We didn't know about that. We're fixing that. And that happens a lot. And that only happens if you bring it up. I understand that people would be hesitant to do that because they don't want to rock the boat, or they don't want to be seen as like someone like, oh, who's this guy? But at the same time, I'm in a really good place where I'm not just some guy anymore. I have games that you want on your platform. So like obviously, again, also I'm like I said, I'm not an asshole. Nobody's gonna watch anything I say and be like, we're kick them off of the Steam. What are this? How dare this guy say it? Like I'm not. I don't say anything like that. It's usually like, this could be better. This is a pain in the ass. This kind of sucks. I wish. I want stuff to be better for developers and for consumers especially. I'm super, obviously very pro consumer. I always think of, I gave a talk a few years ago called Think Like a Player. So whenever I do anything from either a game design perspective or a business perspective, I always try to put myself in the mindset of someone who has no idea about any of our games or anything, who's just sitting down and seeing something for the first time, using it for the first time, using a store for the first time, clicking around. Like I'm on the Xbox store right now. I click the Game Pass button. It loads. It says, here's Game Pass Ultimate. Here's all games. And I'm thinking recently added. I'm like, all right, I'm thinking to myself, how do I find FPS games? Where are the genres? Oh, there's no genre tag. Day one releases. First-person shooters. Here it is. Cool. So I can click on that. That didn't used to be a thing. And now how do I sort this? What if I want to find single-player first-person shooters? So I can search by relevance, title, recently added, how long to beat. That's really cool. They added how long to beat to the Xbox store. And then there's filters. So number of players. So I could do single player. I'm like, this is a good, this is a good UX. This works for me. So I filtered by single player, and there we go. That looks cool. 3 hours long. Mullet Mad Jack. What's this? This looks sick. I click on it. I watch the trailers. Okay. I could play it with Cloud. It's 23. Oh, it's on Game Pass. I've got Game Pass. I can play it right now. The Metascore was 88. Xbox Play Anywhere. Easy buy. I think about games like that. I think about experiences like that when I use anything. And if at any point I encounter friction, I go, all right, how can this be better? And who can I complain to make this better? So and I'm in the position where I can do that. And luckily, people listen to me at this point in my career. I've been in the industry for 15 years. People know me. They know our games, more importantly. I'm like, you want Ultrakill? I know you want some Ultrakill, because Ultrakill is a game that sells millions of copies. Well, you kind of have to listen to my bullshit.
All right, so people want Ultrakill, and your last question for today is simple. We look at New Blood in 5 years. What's come out? Are you still doing the boomer shooters? Is Ultrakill live? Have some of our early access games arrived? Can you talk about any new projects? I want you to tease the future as comfortable as you're able. Bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, over the next few years, obviously our stuff's, early access stuff will be finished. Ultrakill will be finished. Gloomwood will be finished. Fallen Aces will be finished. Dungeons of Dusk will be out. That's coming out this year. Tenebrae Somnia will be out. That's coming out this year. 2 games that we're not early accessing. We might do early access with Dungeons of Dusk if we think we need it. Tenebrae Somnia, no, that's just out. There's a demo right now. Demo on Xbox. We've actually done some demos on Xbox, and that experience has been good. Xbox demos are like, it's been easy to do, and we've gotten a lot of installs. Faith and Tenebrae Somnia, both. People do be playing demos on their Xbox. Xbox has a nice demo section that's easy to find. Go play those demos. Give us feedback. What else is happening at New Blood? More ports. Obviously, Xbox, if it's still around. Switch 2, we've got our Switch 2 dev kits, but we've been really busy. We haven't been able to get our Switch 2 stuff out there yet. I know this is an Xbox podcast, but Switch 2 as well.
Remember podcast. I don't know what Xbox is anymore.
Yeah, remember the Switch 2? It came out last year, and then Donkey Kong. I like Donkey Kong. That was fun. What else is going on at New Blood? We've got new games that we haven't announced yet. More of the same. Like I said, we're not changing anything in the next 5 years. Listen, I am 41 years old. I give myself till 50, and then I'm done. I'm retired. I've been in the industry for, when did I start? When I got in the game industry, 2009. So in 3 more years, I'll be in the industry for 20 years. Jesus Christ. And then by the time I'm 50, it'll be 2036. What the hell? That doesn't seem like a real year. That's not possible. We can't be living that far in the future. But by then, I really just want to have done everything we've wanted to do, put out as many games as we wanted to make, then go fishing.
There you go.
I don't want to do this forever. I'm super proud of what we've done already. I'm proud of the games we made. I'm proud of the stuff I've been able to do for my family and friends and all our developers. I'm proud that we've got players that really love our games, that are happy that our games mean something to them. And I want to just keep that going for the next 5-10 years. And then hopefully in 20-30 years, if the world's still here, people remember us fondly. Like, hey, remember New Blood games? Yeah, oh, those were sick. The kind of the way people talk about, shooters from the 90s and stuff and RPGs from the 90s now. Oh, remember Thief, remember System Shock, remember Fallout, remember Doom and Quake and Redneck Ram, remember Rise of the Triad? I want people to talk about New Blood games like that. Like, the way people talk about games, their favorite games from the 90s. I want kids today to talk about New Blood games like that in 20-30 years, if we're all still here.
Well, I think the easiest way to do that is to point people to the massive amount of stuff New Blood has made, has an early access. There's a massive Steam sale right now for spring. A lot of that stuff is discounted. I went back and picked up the very first one, which was Squadron X Turbo.
Oh, Super Galaxy Squadron. Yeah.
I was like, I knew it immediately.
Ultra, yeah.
Yeah, I snagged that one. Dusk is in my library. Medieval's in my library. I strongly recommend people check it out. I ended up double dipping because of the charities that you guys consistently do. So I hope.
Yeah, we're giving we're giving a bunch of money to Make-A-Wish from the anniversary sale, and I told the lady from Make-A-Wish, I'm like, can I give you guys one of those giant cardboard checks? And she was like, absolutely. We'll get someone from the New Zealand I don't know, division or whatever down. They've got New Zealand office for Make-A-Wish. And I'm like, she sent me a template. So we're actually going to get one of those big cardboard checks printed so I can like take a picture. Like,
hey, that's fun.
It's going to be very fun. I mean, that's the best part about giving to charity. It's like, it's fun to do good stuff, but then like, you got to have fun with it. It's not like, oh, let me just send you a wire transfer and there you go. It's like, no, let's make a thing out of this. And you get some sick kids out here. Let's get them out of the hospital, wheel them out. Put them in front of the check with me and the IV. It's like, all right, little Timmy, back in there. Have fun with it. It's fun to do good, but like you gotta have have fun. We're having we make video games. It's fun. Everybody's all arguing and yelling and screaming all the time and calling each other names and being assholes over whatever games coming out on Twitter. It's like video games. It's fun.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Agree. Well, Dave Oshry, CEO and founder of New Blood Interactive, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time you've given me. Please don't leave just yet. Listeners, please hit that like button, subscribe, share this out to people. If any of this stuff is of interest, support the people that make games. That is the trick. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care.